Hi, everyone. We're on our third day trying to help you out when you're experiencing a loss. And Dr. Hillary is here with me. I'm Dr. Kara Burkhart. We work a lot with women in fertility. We did years and years of fertility work, and we've now expanded it to help people as they age, because now all our fertility patients are getting to be our age. They're moving toward us, right? That's how time goes. But losses it's a big topic for us. We spend a lot of time in our clinical practices helping people through it. And one thing we wanted to talk about today, which is absolutely real, is that many times you just stop eating because you're having cramps, you're depressed, you've had this huge trauma, this disappointment, this a horrible experience, and sometimes you just forget, to eat. The stress hormones take over and completely take away your appetite. They're like a stimulant, stress hormones. They really are adrenaline. It's like being on a lot of caffeine or cocaine or something like that. It really is like that. It's like you're just like trying to get out of the situation and you don't think about nourishment. It's not a nourishing place that you're feeling in. So we want to help with that, right, Hillary?
Yeah. And I mean, it is obviously a conversation that's expanded past just pregnancy or infant loss, which is what we're talking about here. But really, at any time, if you're going through an acute stress or trauma, if you're losing a loved one, if you're going through a divorce, if something's happening with your child, we have these fight or flight reactions and responses where our nervous system takes over and the hormones are released and it is an appetite suppressant. So sometimes we really have to teach women that they have to start to put one foot in front of the next and do things that, even though it doesn't feel normal or natural, this is a weird way to say it, but like if you're riding a stress wave and you're all of a sudden getting pretty thin and depleted, that's like not attractive weight loss, in the sense that it's not sustainable. It's not healthy for you. It's not good for you. And being in process of really like maintaining your nutrients and as much as possible is really, really important during a stressful time.
And
So
we do worry about that rapid weight loss and those fat cells disappearing and dissolving, and all those chemicals that are stored in your fat, like our environmental toxins, our pesticides, our hormone disruptors, are often stored in our fat cells. That's why you see the headline of the baby's fat cells had 150 chemicals in them. It's because they store there. So rapid weight loss like that might override your detox pathways and be quite bad for you and be bad for your brain and affecting memory and also for your ovaries. You just don't want that kind of oxidative stress of that fast release of those chemicals. So it's really important in a number of different ways to think about, how am I nourishing myself? And I know that when you're devastated, it's hard to have any kind of appetite. So we're kind of talking about things without appetite, right, Hillary? We're talking about, if you don't have an appetite, what can you do? What actions can you take as far as viewing food as fuel?
So I think one important thing is just, how do people get fed when they're under stress? Like, it's hard to sometimes organize, get the purchasing of food, the making of food, like that can feel just overwhelming. And
Mhm.
so it's a really important time, if you're under any kind of stress or suffered a loss, to ask for help and or arrange for help. But like often
Mhm.
that's when, and a lot of times there's community comes together, but around pregnancy loss, that's much less apt to happen because
Right.
often you're not sharing it with a broad audience. And so having meals delivered, having things around that are easy and available, because sometimes hunger might hit you at an odd time and you just want food that's there for you. You want things that are easy, like smoothie making is one of those easy things that can feel hard when you're under stress or trauma, but it's something that you can pull off and get a lot of nutrients in. So ordering things online, having things come either prepared or making them, but making a smoothie can be something that you could do and have it prepared and eat it when you actually feel hungry. Hunger will hit you at a different time.
Mhm.
or maybe not at all for many days, but you want to make sure you're getting some amount of fat and some amount of protein to just ground yourself so you don't get super strung out. And Kara's right that we want to avoid really significant rapid weight loss during a time of stress for all those reasons, the chemical toxicity reasons.
So for me, when I've experienced losses and had deaths in the family, etc., I often will go to soups that are already prepared soups, and I often get the organic carton soups just at the grocery store to have at my house. And those are so easy to heat up, and there's something very soothing about soup. When you're not hungry at all, you just throw it in a mug, and then you can drink it like it's like a cup of tea. You get a pureed tomato soup or butternut squash soup or carrot soup. All those puree soups are so easy to get down and soothing for your GI system that might help too, because you feel like you're not really having a whole big meal. And those are so good for you and so easy to get. So that's something to have on your grocery list. And remember, all groceries can get delivered these days. So you could just pop it right into the cart online and have those delivered.
The other thing I think is like making a little bit of time to just sit quietly around food. You might not be hungry, so like eating on the go might not be a thing, but sitting down, lighting a candle, saying a prayer, just kind of shifting, you might then have hunger come on, and asking a friend or somebody that you love to sit with you while you're trying to eat can be a really good way to be in community, talk about something and get some nutrients in.
Yeah, and also thinking about what are your comfort foods, and often that's sort of, what did I eat when I was homesick as a child from school? Was it applesauce? Was it a piece of toast? Was it apple juice? For some reason, it was apple juice for me, so that appeals to me when I don't feel well.
My mom always gave me ginger ale.
Oh, ginger ale too, of
Like,
course.
you're sick, you get ginger ale. It's hilarious.
You
I'm
feel
like,
really good with ginger ale.
it's
That's
funny that the herb ginger made it, it's medicinal wisdom made it through like Canada Dry ginger ale when you're sick. Like, Mom,
right.
I think it's
There's
like a
not much
little
ginger
different
in there, right?
than the ginger than the way that ginger was supposed to be working.
Yeah.
But that is a really good point, that using herbs to calm your nervous system is another good way. So drinking calming herbs after a loss or a trauma, chamomile, peppermint, tulsi tea, things that just soothe your nervous system can make it then so that your body gets a more appropriate hunger response. I mean, many people won't eat because they literally don't have an appetite or they feel nauseous. Nausea is another thing. If you're getting a lot of nausea after either a pregnancy loss or any kind of trauma, believe it or not, there are some good anti-nausea medications. So your doctor could help you with something like that. If physical nausea is making it something that where you can't eat any food, that can sometimes happen. And so you want to shut that mechanism down and be able to eat while you're going through kind of the acute storm of your crisis.
And clinically, we find ginger tea from traditional medicinals because they add ginger extract onto the dried ginger. So it's not just a beverage tea that tastes like ginger. It actually has ginger extract in there. That one's a really good one for nausea, and it really helps people to be able to get that appetite back, because the stress hormones being high just push the appetite right down. And in Chinese medicine, lack of appetite is one of the biggest symptoms of qi deficiency, just energy deficiency. And if we're talking about a pregnancy loss, there's always a loss of blood going on. And so women get blood deficient and they just get that lack of energy. And it's this tricky thing, because what we need is nourishment, but it's hard to get it in. It's hard to absorb it. And so sometimes doing things like the liver capsule is a good source of an organ capsule that's really clean, can help build that blood up too. So thinking about, am I getting iron-rich foods? Do I have enough vitamin C in my diet? How can I kind of build this piece of my iron up?
Yeah, taking vitamins can be a really hard thing during these kind of times. Like it's one of
Mhm.
those, it's just the extra that doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
So trying to do it through foods. I love what Kara said about soups. Any kind of like braised meats,
Mhm.
stew can be a really nurturing thing, even if you're just drinking broth, but there's a
Mm.
lot of nutrients in it. Bone broth's another good way to get some nutrients and some gelatin and just help your gut. Sometimes what can happen is, like we said, the stress hormones can make it so that you're nauseous. It can feel like a stimulant. So it can feel just like, oh my God, I'm not like I have no room for eating. And when you start to introduce some of the soups, like if a smoothie is too much for you, a soup or a broth, then the body goes, oh, wait, this
Mhm.
makes sense to me. I need to start to bring in more nutrients. And cooked vegetables, soups, like those things are always going to be easier to digest than like a big salad. I would never, if somebody brings you a salad to eat when you're in stress or trauma, that's just like not going to, that's just the wrong food. So
And
the
when
warm cooked foods are much more absorbable.
And we're pulling this out of the Chinese tradition in that cold can enter the uterus when you have a loss. It's just part of Chinese medicine, and that can lead to problems. So there is this concept that we want more warming foods like the ginger that's warming, or soups or stews, or the grilled vegetables or roasted vegetables. That kind of stuff is easier to absorb, whereas a cold salad might be a little bit hard, or the smoothie that's actually frozen, but you can leave it and bring it to room temperature and drink that very easily, and it's packed with nutrition. So we would steer people towards smoothies, where other more strict practitioners would say no smoothies after a loss. We find that the nutrition outweighs that risk of having something a little more on the cooling side. But I think the other thing to think about is, if you're listening to this and you just had a loss and you're saying, "Absolutely, I just don't really feel like eating anything," that's a totally normal response. Um, but it's thinking about, what would you give someone else if they were in this situation that you could imagine they could eat, and give that to yourself. So it could be brown rice and butter, something just so calming to the nervous system. It can be some quinoa if brown rice doesn't appeal to you, but something just so neutral and not so oily and not so heavy and just easy to digest is probably something that might appeal to you. So I hope this helps.
Yeah. Sending you all a lot of love. And remember, nourishing yourself is the ultimate start of self-care, and it's the big thing we want you to try to get help with, and ask for help if you need it.
Absolutely. Bye.
Love. Bye.